Welcome to this lecturette on experimental design. In social work, you may want to use quantitative designs to examine the efficacy of interventions, like whether a peer support program reduces substance misuse, whether parenting training helps families in which a child has a disability, or if universal health insurance reduces hospital readmission rates. Today, we'll examine 3 types of designs that are used not only in social work, but across the sciences to investigate the efficacy of interventions. I found an article about a real-life experiment in Kansas conducted by biologists. They wanted to see if Garmin's new fish finder technology, LiveScope, provides an unfair advantage to fishermen by giving them too clear of a view of the fish, making the fishing sort of like a video game in which you could follow a fish and keep casting right toward that same fish until you catch him. The state was concerned that this could result in overharvest of the crappie population in lakes and reservoirs. So they recruited a convenient sample of 32 volunteers who were separated into 2-person teams. They controlled a lot of the external variables, like each team fished for 7 hours on 2 specific days in very specific areas of the lake. The scientists counterbalanced so that some teams had the LiveScope on the first day and some of them had the LiveScope on the second day. While there was a trend for anglers using the scope to catch a few more fish, and the fish were slightly bigger, there were still some teams that fished more successfully without the scope, and the researchers concluded that the scope was at low risk for damaging the crappie population when used by weekend anglers in the lake. So let's play off this example to discuss our 3 types of designs. First of all, let's say that me, Roland Martin, who's a professional fisherman, Snoop Dogg, Oprah, Takahiro Omori, also a professional fisherman, Avril Lavigne, Bill Dance, professional fisherman, Barack Obama, and Mike Akinelli, another professional fisherman, meet down at the dam on Lake Murray early one morning to try out the LiveScope and see how things go. If we were using a pre-experimental design, we could do something like a 1-group pre-post, where we fish for a while, we count up our catch, which counts as our pre-test. We then get the scope, which counts as our intervention, and we fish some more, and we count our catch. That counts as a post-test. One problem with a simple design like this is you can't rule out alternative explanations, like whether the fishing conditions changed or whether the anglers learned how to fish better as the day went on. So we could try a different type. We could do a 2-group with a post-test, and this is still a pre-experimental design. So we could just divide people up into teams. We could ask everyone to go down to the dock and get in one of the 2 boats with a limit of 5 per boat. They just choose whichever boat they want to get on, just have to stop as soon as it hits 5. One boat has the LiveScope on it and one doesn't. We can see if the folks that are on the boat with the LiveScope fish better. But what if one team had better fishermen aboard? Like all the fishermen were hanging out together? Or what if the folks who got on Snoop's boat had been hanging out with him in the parking lot beforehand and were a little distracted throughout the day? Pre-experimental designs are vulnerable to threats to internal validity because you don't randomly assign people to groups. You just go with the naturally occurring group or groups that are non-equivalent. So there may be pre-existing differences if you use the 2 groups in this type of situation that hasn't been random assignment to groups. Pre-experiments have either a comparison group or a pretest, but they don't have both of these things. So what can you do about that? You could actually try to incorporate both 2 groups and a pretest, and that would notch it up to a quasi-experimental design. This provides a little more protection against threats to validity, but there still could be factors that you didn't think to measure in your pretest. What if gender or age varies or naturally occurring groups? What if gender or age varies in your naturally occurring groups and interacts with fishing over time, where people on one boat were more likely to lose focus as the day went on because they were hungry or they were tired or they needed to use the bathroom? Quasi-experimental designs still can't rule out alternative explanations because the comparison group is considered non-equivalent. They're really good when you can't assign people to groups or when you want to look at differences between naturally occurring groups. So for instance, in the article, there was just one woman that was fishing with 31 guys. To improve that, we might do a quasi-experimental design where we look at whether the scope improves performance for persons who identify as women versus those who identify as men. Now, if you want to crank it up even more to another level, you might randomly assign people to the groups. Folks would draw numbers from a hat, and you would send them, based on the number they drew, 1 or 2, to the first boat or the second boat. Keep in mind, this is not the same as random sampling from the full population of folks at the landing. This is not like you just selected from whomever was at the landing, of anyone who happened to show up there that day and selected those people randomly. You've already got your sample here, and this is how you're assigning them, how you're distributing people to the 2 groups. This helps assure that the groups are not systematically biased in some way, like having hung out with Snoop in the car at 6 a.m. in the parking lot. You can go with a post-test only design if you wanted. So wait a second, let me first randomly assign people to groups here. So there's Barack, April went to boat 2, Oprah goes to boat 1, we got Snoop, we got Kira, I forgot what his last name was. We got Martin, we got Rihanna, we got Bill Dance and me and Akinelli. And then you could have a post-test design. Now with your post-test design, it's even better if you actually add a pre-test. That way you could try to figure out if there are any pre-existing differences between groups. So like boat 2 here has 3 professional fishermen on it. But does that necessarily mean it's better? Boat 1 has Omiri on it, it's got Oprah on it, it's got Obama on it. Can he fish? Yes, he can. Sometimes you use statistical formulas to control for any differences that do exist, and you could weight those factors in your calculations. And if you have a lot of teams, like in the article, they divided into like 16 teams, little biases here and there will cancel each other out. Of the 3 designs, true experiments have the highest internal validity because they're tightly controlled, but they do struggle with external validity, which is ability to generalize, because that makes it an artificial context. Oops. So, hopefully, this has helped elucidate the 3 types of quantitative designs, and hopefully it's got y'all geared up for a little outdoor recreation and relaxation. And thank you for joining me on this lecturette today.